U.S. President Joe Biden has nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson, a judge on the United States Court of Appeals, as the first black woman to serve in the Supreme Court of the United States. Biden is following through on a 2020 campaign promise to make the historic nomination and diversify the U.S. Supreme Court, which has been dominated by white men for over 2 centuries. Voice of America White House correspondent Anita Powell joins us now to give us more. Now, Anita, thank you so much. Good afternoon. Well, good morning on your end. Thank you so much for joining us today right here on Newzroom Afrika. Now, let's start off with, who is Judge Jackson?
So Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is a 51-year-old Harvard graduate. She is, I think, as President Joe Biden said yesterday, kind of the epitome of black excellence. She sailed through some of the finest educational institutions in the United States, served on courts, was a prosecutor, and is critically the first black woman nominee for the Supreme Court, which is worthwhile in the United States because, unlike South Africa, which got its first black woman on the Constitutional Court in, 1994, this is the first round for us. And 108 of the 115 Supreme Court justices we've had in this country have been white men. So this is definitely an important nomination, a consequential one, and one that I think both Ketanji Brown Jackson and President Biden hope will kind of shift the course of the court.
Now, of course, this is a big deal, for her nomination, really is a big deal for America. She is the first female to be nominated. But just explain to us, why is it so big for America?
Right. So as I said, there have been 115 Supreme Court justices. 108 of them have been white men. And I think it's pretty easy to see why lived experience, in addition to judicial experience and knowledge of the law, is kind of critical in any society. I think South Africa illustrates that very well by having a mix of people from different experiences sitting in the judiciary. And I think Ketanji Brown Jackson herself underscored this by talking a little bit about her history, about how her family are members of her family are in law enforcement, but critically she has an uncle who was sentenced to life in prison on nonviolent drug crimes, which is a big issue in the Black American community. This is something that has been ongoing for many years. And there are legal scholars, there are activists, and there are just ordinary Americans who say that this is not productive for our society to keep sentencing people to lengthy prison sentences for nonviolent drug crimes. And I think there's a hope that by getting prosecutors, former prosecutors, former defenders, people with courtroom experience on the Supreme Court who have that experience, who have that lived experience, who have that understanding, that perhaps we can create a more just and equitable society.
Now, do you foresee that she will actually be able to change the court?
So the problem is she is replacing a liberal justice, Justice Stephen Breyer, and the court right now is at 6-3. That's 6 conservative justices and 3 liberal justices. So no, on balance, she is not going to be able to be a deciding vote in this 9-member court.
So now what then? I mean, she needs to go through some kind of Senate hearing, right?
Right. So every Supreme Court justice has to be approved by the Senate by a simple majority. Now, President Biden has made quite a big show of seeking advice and collaboration from legislators in making this pick. He stressed that he spent a lot of time talking to Congress people about this choice that he made. He was looking at 3 black female judges for this position, and she seemed to be the consensus candidate, is what we're hearing from the White House. So I think he's kind of built a path for her to be confirmed. But the problem is, I think we all know that the United States right now is politically divided in a way that it hasn't been before. And this could be possibly used by members of Congress to kind of achieve some of their ends or just score points ahead of critical midterm elections later this year. So her nomination could turn into a bigger discussion about something else, could turn into politicians trying to score points with their constituencies or try to sway the election. We just don't know. We do expect she's going to be asked tough questions. I think you do expect this. When somebody's getting a lifetime appointment to the highest court on the land, they should face tough questions. because they're going to have a tough job. But it remains to be seen how smoothly it's going to go and whether she will end up being confirmed.
Anita, I cannot let you go. I mean, as a White House correspondent, I cannot let you go until we get some reaction or an understanding from the White House around the issue of what's taking place in Ukraine. I understand that you were reporting actually on the 2014 conflict from Ukraine. What is the response that we are seeing from the White House?
Well, obviously the White House is extremely concerned. They've leveled rounds and rounds and rounds of sanctions on the Russian regime, including directly at President Vladimir Putin. But the fact remains that Kiev, the capital city, the beautiful capital city of Ukraine, is under siege right now. And so obviously this is of concern, not just loss of life, but also the brazen reality that a head of state in the year 2022 is claiming territory. I thought we'd kind of gotten over this in the imperialist era, but apparently this is still happening nowadays. And the White House has said that this is not something that happens in this day and age. It's surprising, it's shocking, it's, they've condemned it in the strongest terms, but without, actual physical support inside Ukraine, right now it's the Ukrainians fighting off the Russian army, and that's what is going to remain. The U.S. has emboldened NATO, has allowed NATO to send more support by road to Ukrainian troops, so they're doing handoffs at the western border. But the problem is, there are only so many fighting forces on the ground in Ukraine to fight off this Russian onslaught, and it's very worrying.
Extremely worrying developments coming out of Ukraine. But Anita Powell, thank you so much for your time, the Voice of America and White House correspondent, speaking to us about the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson. Thank you so much for that.